Hi everybody, this is Ted Laderis again, and I'm just going to do another exploration of Tidy Tuesday data using Databot. So I've just taken a little bit of time right now to kind of set up my project and take a look at the data set and the information on the Tidy Tuesday data set. I'll make this link available in the description. So essentially this is a data set about the languages of the world, and it comes from a open access database in linguistics called Glottoblog or Glottolog. And there's kind of three main data sets that appear to be, or three main data frames that appear to be part of this. So if we take a quick look, the main table is this languages table. So it contains like not only the ID for the language, but also things like where the latitude and longitude of the language location. So it also has this thing called macroarea, which is this general geographic area in which the language is found, and there's other information as well. So I want to start taking a look at Databot, using Databot on this. Okay, so this is my positron project, and this is one of the things that, so I just basically took the Tidy Tuesday code for loading the data in. I just put it in this file called load_data, and we have our three data frames here. So like I mentioned, we've got that language data frame, and you can see that, again, one of the real reasons I really love using positron for this is that it's got this data explorer. So this always gives me a good kind of overview of what's in the data. So we can see that there are various macro areas, and these appear to be roughly kind of corresponding to continents, but they're a little more aggregated. So we'll want to take a look at languages by macro area. And this also has information about, the countries that the language is in. And we know that languages cross country barriers because, a lot of country borders are pretty much political. So I'm going to start up Databot, and let's take a look at this data set. So if we I clicked on my extensions, and if I go to Databot, this is the Databot extension. But if I want to run it, I can open the command palette. So I did Command-Shift-P here, and then I want to click Open Databot here. Okay, so one of the things that I like to do when I first kind of start looking at the data frames. So the other data frames, by the way, so there is this families. So this is another way to kind of aggregate the different languages. So they all belong to kind of particular families. And then let's get that back up and running. And then finally, there's this endangered status. So this has a number of different kind of statuses. Some of these, and they're all linked by the language ID. Okay, so let's start kind of working with Databot. I'm going to make this my file. So let's take a look at, so one of the things I noticed is that we have a latitude and longitude here. So I want to convert languages into what's called a SF data frame. So SF is short for simple features, and that lets us do things like spatial calculations on it. So let's try that. So transform the languages data frame into an SF data frame. Oh, and I need to select the model, so I'm going to select Claude Sonnet 4.5. Now I'm going to start running it. Okay, again, I have Databot set up so that I have to read the code and allow it to execute. I don't really recommend that you do you basically allow it to always execute code. It's always good to take a look at the code it's generating. So here I know a little bit about the SF package. So now it's going to basically only retain those languages that have a latitude and longitude. And then it's going to cast the data frame as what's called a SF, simple features data frame. And it gives, we give the column names for the longitude and latitude. And we also need to give it the coordinate system. So let's allow once. Okay, so I want to make a leaflet plot of the languages by latitude and longitude. So we've got all of these languages in a data frame. So we have about 8,300 different languages. So let's ask basically Databot to help us make a leaflet plot. So now it's going to create a leaflet plot. So kind of the main two commands here are the add tiles and add circle markers here. So you can see that what it's going to do is basically add these circle markers. So each of these circle markers is going to be for a particular language. Nice thing, it's going to add some tooltips for us as well. So let's allow this. And you can see that now we've got our leaflet plot. I just opened the plot in another window, and so we can zoom in and we can take a look at particular languages. So, for example, here in North America, we've got the Chippewa language here. So if we go over to the Northwest, where I am, we can see kind of particular indigenous languages. So Nooksack and other languages like that. So this is a great start. So let's kind of continue on our exploration. So one of the things we want to do is let's merge that endangered status into our languages data frame. So we can merge the endangered languages SF data frame by, let's take a look. So we want to merge by ID. So let's see if Databot can handle that. Okay, so it wants us to take a quick glimpse at the data. So it's doing a quick check to make sure that the IDs are compatible. So here we're going to do, you can see now it's going to left join our languages SF data frame, and it's going to left join that with endangered status. So let's allow that. Okay, so here's some suggestions from Databot. Some of these are good suggestions for further exploring the data. I want to actually kind of visualize by the macro area, or I want to color the points by the macro area. So let's try that. Color the circles in the map by macro area. Okay, so let's take a look at what Databot did. So it's basically looking at the number of unique macro areas, and then it's going to create a color palette. So it's kind of it's going to start out with this set one color palette. We can adjust that later. So here it's going to basically kind of do that. So what it's going to do is it's going to basically use that palette here in the add circle markers. So we can execute that and see what it looks like. Okay, so we can see that there's kind of general macro areas here. So this is North America. As you can see, it's kind of distributed. And then we've got, for example, we've got Papunesia. So there are kind of multiple points to that. We've also got Africa, we've got South America, and we've got Eurasia. Okay, so that's really interesting. So I'm interested in indigenous languages of the U.S. So let's filter the data set to only indigenous languages to the U.S. The United States. So filter the data set to languages in the United States. Okay, so here it's going to do a string detect in the countries, so it's going to look for the US here. Okay, so one of the things we might want to do is actually look at the status code. So again, if we take a look at the endangered status, we can see we have different status codes, but maybe we want to label these languages by status label. So status labels, if we go into endangered status, so there are some various categories here. So there are things like not endangered, nearly extinct, etc. So let's produce a map colored by the status label. So color the US languages by status label. Let's see what happens. Okay, so here it's basically generating its own kind of color palette here. And then we've got kind of these are the different categories of status. So it's going to add that not only here, but it's also going to use it to color the circle markers. So let's take a look at that. Okay, and if we zoom out, interestingly, it still included some languages. This might be because these languages are also, they are also within the U.S., but they are, for some reason, they're included in the U.S. languages, but they don't have a latitude longitude within the United States. So one of the things that you can see is that kind of along the coast, there's a bunch of coastal languages, and unfortunately a lot of them are extinct. So let's take a look at, for example, this one is Wiyot, and you can see its status is extinct. And this Salish, the Puget Sound Salish language is also extinct. So this is very interesting to me. There are a couple of nearly extinct languages that we can take a look at. We can see that a lot of these languages were along the coastal regions, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are extinct. If we look at the other side here, we can kind of see a similar pattern of extinction. Interestingly, there's this non-endangered language here. So American Sign Language. Well, I guess that's interesting. I was really thinking about indigenous languages, but you can see this one is Shawnee. So Shawnee is actually a moribund status. I need to look up and see what that means. But so far, we've generated like a map of the U.S. of languages that occur within the United States, and we can see their status. So I'm going to stop it right here and then maybe move on in a later video.